What's going on, Bottom Line viewers? It's Mitch here, back with another Monday Night Football recap. This time it's the Houston Texans and the Oakland Raiders. The Raiders advanced to 8-2, tied for first place in the AFC and first in the AFC West. Of course, they're tied with the New England Patriots at the top of the AFC, and at the AFC West, they're the top team. They beat the Denver Broncos already. They have lost to the Kansas City Chiefs, but the Chiefs lost this weekend, so the Chiefs move into first place. The Houston Texans are now 6-4, but still atop of the AFC South. The Raiders won this 27-20. Now, I think the main difference in this game pretty much comes down to quarterback play. Derek Carr was just straight up the better quarterback than Brock Osweiler. This is what it came down to in this game. Looking at the statistics, Derek Carr was 21 for 31, 295 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a passer rating of 117. Brock Osweiler, 26 for 39, 243 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, sacked twice, while Carr was sacked a grand total of 0 times. A lot of that has to do with their offensive line there in Oakland, one of the most underrated offensive lines in the league, maybe the second best in the NFL. First, of course, going to the Dallas Cowboys. 81.5 passer rating. So Osweiler didn't play terrible, but he wasn't fantastic. This was actually a decent game from Osweiler. Of course, this year he hasn't been the best, and I'm sure if you're a Texans fan, you can tell me how bad he has been this year. But he did make a couple of runs, actually, in this game that is uncharacteristic of Brock. 2 carries for 19 yards. Both were for first downs. So Brock did show some spirit and heart in this game. He only turned the football over 1 time, so looking for the positives. But Derek Carr, I think, was pretty darn good in this game. He had that 1 bad interception that he just chucked up there in the middle of the field in double coverage. I think it was to Michael Crabtree down the field where I think it launched at like 40, 50 yards, and it was intercepted. Bad pass, bad play, bad mistake. But after that and before that, Derek Carr was pretty awesome. Like I said, 3 touchdowns, only 1 interception, 117 passer rating. On the ground, the Texans were a lot more, competitive on the ground. They had a Lamar Miller with 24 carries, 104 yards, 4.3 yards per carry, and a touchdown. He did have that long run of 33 yards that was almost a touchdown, but it got reviewed and called back. The Raiders had Latavius Murray as their leading rusher, 12 carries, 33 yards. That's going to be something for the Raiders that they're going to need to get, more competitive, more consistent. If they're going to want to beat these better teams in the AFC, they're going to need a consistent rushing attack. And so far this season, they haven't really been consistent on the ground. They've had games where they've been really good, like the Broncos game, where they pretty much controlled the game on the ground with Latavius Murray, Jalen Richard, and DeAndre Washington. But in this game, Latavius Murray took pretty much all the carries, and they attacked the Texans through the air, which, again, was pretty successful. For the Texans, they were very balanced, 24 carries from Lamar Miller. But other than that, Akeem Hunt, their backup, had 5 carries, but he was for negative loss. He had a negative 2 yards on the day for a negative 0.4 yards per carry. So other than him, they didn't run the ball. It was all Lamar Miller all the time. 24 carries in this game. Again, really wasn't spectacular. He made a couple of runs and got through a couple of holes that only a few guys could make, and definitely Lamar Miller's earning his money for that. But I find that Lamar Miller at times goes down a little bit too easy, doesn't fight for the extra yard. He's a smaller running back, so I can understand why, but he is just very utilized in this offense in terms of he touches the ball a lot. In this game, I was actually surprised he didn't touch the ball very much in the passing game. He only caught 2 catches for 9 yards and didn't score a touchdown in the receiving game. He's actually not scored many touchdowns this season, only 1 in this game. Could have had 2 in this game. His 1 touchdown was on the 1-yard line. For Oakland, again, Latavius Murray has been their go-to guy, but he hasn't been overly successful this season. He had 0 touchdowns in this game, only 2.8 yards per carry. The Texans really focused on taking away the Oakland rushing attack and making them one-dimensional. They were pretty successful at that, but when it comes to the clutch downs and the big plays, Derek Carr consistently came in, and under pressure, he was fantastic. Receiving-wise for the Oakland Raiders, Amari Cooper, I thought, had played a pretty good game. He did have that long touchdown of 35 yards, was targeted 5 times, caught the ball 4 times for 57 yards and a touchdown. Jalen Richard, the running back, had three catches, 50 yards and a touchdown. And they did have that one long screen pass to Alaway. I think that's how you say his name. He's like the fullback on the team. 3 receptions, 90 yards, and 1 touchdown. They really like this guy because this is the reason why they cut Marcel Reese. He had 3 catches, 90 yards, touchdown. He still has that speed. 75 yards was the long for him for that touchdown on that screen. But it was a really good game in terms of Oakland getting their backs involved in the passing game. Of course, Latavius Murray also had 5 receptions for 59 yards. Michael Crabtree was bad in this game. He had a couple of drops, very inconsistent. He only had 3 catches for 5 yards, and they really tried to take him away. The Texans did. Texans don't get enough credit for the secondary they have. They have a good secondary. They have a couple of good pass rushers out there in Houston, and I thought that they did a pretty good job on the main targets of Oakland. It was just the secondary targets that have been really playing very well for the Raiders this year. This is the reason why their offense continues to play at a very successful rate, because when their top guys get shut down or aren't having their best games, they continue to have other guys step up, like Latavius Murray, like Jalen Richard, like these other players. Seth Roberts is usually one of those guys, but he only had 1 catch for 6 yards. So Oakland was really attacking the backs, really trying to attack the tight ends as well. And that's exactly what they did in this football game. Latavius Murray, pretty good in the passing game. He had a clutch catch at the end of the game to seal the victory against Bernard McKinney, the linebacker, who I think is really good. Bernard McKinney is a really good linebacker, inside linebacker. He doesn't get enough credit, especially against the run. He's a very big guy, very athletic. He had 8 tackles and 1 tackle for loss, leading the team in tackles in this game. Jadeveon Clowney had 2 tackles for loss, leading the team, 5 tackles. Bruce Irvin was the monster on the Oakland sideline. He was all over the place, and he was consistently called out by the announcers. 9 tackles, 10 total, and 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, and a quarterback hit. So he was all over the field. The other former Seahawk, Malcolm Smith, also had 10 tackles and 1 pass deflection. Carl Joseph, the defensive tackle, had 9 tackles in this game and 2 quarterback hits for Khalil Mack. He also had a sack and a tackle for loss. He's always going to be involved in the Oakland defense if they're going to have a good game. But besides that, nobody was really awesome on the defensive side of the ball. I thought Bruce Irvin was probably the standout on defense. In terms of receiving wise for Houston, of course they had Fedorowicz, who was pretty heavily involved, 6 receptions, 82 yards, but he was targeted 10 times, the most for both teams in the entire game. And he could have, made a couple of more catches that were just like right in his hands, and he dropped them. But he had an okay game once again. DeAndre Hopkins is not getting the big play. Last year he had a lot of games where he was going for 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. This year he's been, not that good, and a lot of that has to fall on Brock Osweiler. He's just very, concerned with throwing an interception or turning the football over. And he's throwing a lot of short passes, shorter routes to tight ends and running backs. When guys like DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller, their game is to get down the field, and they haven't really allowed them to do that this year. DeAndre Hopkins had 5 catches for 58 yards in this game on 6 targets. Will Fuller was pretty much invisible. He had 1 catch for 17 yards and 4 targets. Braxton Miller, they tried to get involved in more ways than one. He had 5 catches for 25 yards and a touchdown. He also tried to run the football on a reverse on 1 play. But overall, I thought the Texans played a pretty competitive game. Coming in, I thought the Raiders would win this one. I think they're the more complete team. But I think Oakland did show some flaws. Their defense definitely is flawed. They can't really stop the run consistently or the pass consistently. Osweiler, didn't look terrible against the Raiders defense, which is a concern if you're a Raiders fan. For their offense, I think the Texans had the perfect game plan of slowing them down. Take away their receivers, their 2 top targets, and you have a good chance of winning. Against a better offense, I think the Raiders would probably struggle and maybe lose this game. But because the Texans don't have a very good offense, they definitely had a chance to win, but they didn't come away with the victory. And that's where the Raiders and Derek Carr came through. Derek Carr is currently the MVP still for me in the league. I named him the midseason MVP for me. Right now, again, another 295-yard, 3-touchdown game is definitely going to keep you in the MVP race. And it's just those plays that he makes that, you know, not a lot of other quarterbacks can make. Throwing on the run, throwing under pressure, just very athletic plays that he makes game after game after game, keeping his team in it and getting his team the victory. So the Oakland Raiders won this one 27-20. Dylan wants you guys to know that he thought that the Texans got screwed over at the end of it. I'm not really going to say anything about that. I didn't think the call at the end was really that bad. There was a couple of calls in this game, but I don't think the refs were really a problem in this football game. The possession-wise, it was pretty much even. 23 for Oakland, 26 for Houston, 22 first downs for Houston, and 16 first downs for Oakland. Oakland, of course, I think the difference, again, not only Derek Carr, but their ability to get big chunk plays, which kept them, you know, their offense can score in 2 minutes, 4 minutes, when the Texans are having to go on long play drives. 10 minutes to score a field goal, 8 minutes to score a touchdown, 8 minutes to score a touchdown, 8 minutes to score a field goal. When the Raiders, they can have those long drives, but they always finish them in touchdowns. And then when they have the short drives, they can get that big play like that screen pass or a big play to Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree. And that's the difference in the game. More playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. Derek Carr. And I think that, Brock Osweiler is really holding this Texans team back. It could be a very good team. Even without J.J. Watt, they're still competitive. So it's Mitch of the Bottom Line View. Hope you guys enjoyed this recap. If you did, please Gronk spike the like button and subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more Monday night, Thursday night, and Sunday night football recaps on the channel. Peace out.